Okay guys, I hope you're enjoying this course and have fun playing around with the code for each application. I also hope you found some bugs or added some improvements to the code. Now in this section, we are going to see an application that connects to all the devices in our GNS3 network through SSH, issues a bunch of commands, and collects the output from all those commands. Then using regular expressions, the program extracts various performance parameters from each device, like the CPU utilization, processor memory, or I/O memory, and then determines the average of those values and the top CPU or memory consumers in the network. Also, the application extracts other information about each router, like the model, iOS version, serial number, Cisco neighbors or routing protocols, and builds a network inventory. All this information is exported to a MySQL database on the local machine and organized into tables. Used in conjunction with the Linux Task Scheduler, this application can be executed at certain time intervals to constantly monitor the network. Without further ado, let's see it in action. Before running it, I made sure my GNS3 routers are up and running and reachable also, and I have enabled SSH version 2 on all of them. Next, I checked that the MySQL database is created. If you went through the Python and MySQL section, you should already have it configured. Finally, the program will read the IP addresses of the routers, the SQL connection parameters, and the SSH credentials from external files. So I have created and populated those files also. Now let's check the tables in the database to see that they are initially empty. So MySQL -u root -p, the password is root. Okay, use netmon, this is our database. Show tables, these are the tables in our database. And now let's see, select all from network devices. Sorry. Okay, empty set. Also, let's try another one. Let's say select all from CPU utilization. Okay, this table is empty as well. So you can see that the database and necessary tables are created, but are currently empty. Now let's run the application and pass the files we talked about as arguments in the command. So python netmon sql.py. Okay, the first file sqlip.txt, next sql ssh.txt, and finally sql.con.txt. Okay, so the program confirms that we are using these files as arguments. Then it silently checks the IP reachability to each router in the first file. After seeing that all the devices are reachable, the program validates the SQL SSH and SQL con files, as you can see right here, and notifies the user that any database errors will be logged in a dedicated file, so sqlerrorlog.txt. The final steps are to extract the necessary information from the devices and export it to the MySQL database. Okay, now let's check the database and see if any data has been inserted. So, select all from CPU utilization. In this table's first column, you can see the CPU utilization network average that was calculated by the program. Next, you can find the top 3 most CPU intensive devices, so R4, R5, and R1. And in the last column, you have the date and time of the extraction. So, this one over here. This could prove to be very useful for monitoring. Now let's see the network devices table. Okay, so in this table, you can see a lot of information about the 5 routers in the network. This table can be a great inventory for our devices. You can see various information like the host name, the MAC address, the vendor, the image on each router, the iOS version, and so on. The other database tables have been populated as well, but we are going to see them later, when we will analyze and test the application. Of course, in the last lecture of this section, you have the entire application code available for download. Next, let's start planning this application.